years of hard national lockdown and with no live events presented by the Centre for Creative Arts, in 2021, the 25th edition of Poetry Africa Festival made a small but cautious re-entry into the live performance space at the Playhouse Theatre in Durban. The Poetry Africa Festival brought together a group of women poets to meet at the river and to commune with the live theatre space again. Emfuleni is where women traditionally meet and talk, philosophize, and make plans. It is a place where women do not have to check what they are saying. There are no formalities and they can share their honest thoughts and engage with each other. Khwezi Becker played host to Lebo Mashile, Siphokazi Jonas, Gcina Mhlope, Mbali Malimela, Toni, Giselle, Stuart, and Thando Fuze at the metaphorical river at the Playhouse Theatre. The event was presented by the Centre for Creative Arts in partnership with the Playhouse Theatre. It was funded by Total Energies, the French Institute of South Africa, and the National Institute for Humanities and Social Sciences. The event was recorded and edited by S'bo Cele for the Time of the Writer Festival celebration of National Human Rights Day that coincide with the International Poetry Day. Asambe siye Emfuleni.
Sinjani? Siyaphila nathi mawamuthi sivukile. We are still here, and it's so wonderful to see all of you. It's wonderful to have a live audience. Oh my goodness. This is our first live one in a while, and I am so honored to be your host today, Khwezi Becker, and I'm going to be your host this evening. Welcome to Poetry Africa, where our theme is Unmute Power to the Poet. Power to their words, power to their spirit, power to their sharing, and power to their courage in their vulnerability. Power to it all. Today, the event is called Emfuleni, and it's an all-women show. And I have many theories on why maybe it might have been called Emfuleni, but as far as I know, la KwaZulu-Natal, mawubuza ukuthi uqhamuka ngaphi kuthiwa uphuza komuphi umfula. And Tina, as artists, as poets, siphuza kule mfula le that are about to enter our stage today. These are the rivers that we are drinking from. And it is so beautiful to have that on one stage tonight. So thank you, Poetry Africa, for bringing them here and bringing me here to be the one to vula inkundla. Kwaze kwamnandi. So first up, to open for us, I'm going to call on the director of the CCA and Poetry Africa, Bab Ismail Mohammed, to open. Please welcome to the stage, Bab Ismail Mohammed.
Maisha Jenkins, Jonas Gwangwa, Dawn Lindbergh, Lynette Murray, Andrew Makanya. Those are just 5 names, but there are many more. We celebrate their spirits in all these empty seats. Tonight, we come for the first time after 19 months in a live performance with Poetry Africa. I'd like us to take a moment before we start these proceedings to rise and remember those artists that we've lost over the last 19 months. Thank you. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Centre for Creative Arts at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, it's my pleasure to welcome you this evening to our first live event that we've been able to present at the Centre for Creative Arts since last year, March, when we went into the lockdown. As soon as President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the lockdown last year during March, the Time of the Writer Festival was the first South African festival to venture into the online space. And since then, we have presented the Jumba Festival, the Time of the Writer Festival, the Poetry Africa Festival, the Durban International Film Festival, but we also launched the Artfluence Human Rights Festival, a jazz festival in partnership with the University of Johannesburg, and we also launched tomorrow night the Cabaret and Beyond Festival in partnership with the Nelson Mandela Bay Theatre Complex. The work that we've done is a celebration of the resilience. The work that we've presented is a celebration of the resilience of the artists in our communities. Artists who believe that even in a lockdown, their voices must never be muted. Artists are the canaries in our mine, they are our conscience, they are our watchtowers. It is with their words that we find the pathways to truth and the pathways to protecting our democracy. None of that would be made possible if it wasn't for the support of our funders and sponsors. And tonight, I'm incredibly delighted to welcome to this theatre the representatives from the French Institute of South Africa, the newly arrived director for the Institute of the French Institute of South Africa, Ms. Sophie Beale. I also want to welcome her colleague, Anne-Sophie Sagonet. Now, the French Institute of South Africa has been associated with the Center for Creative Arts for many, many years. But anyone who has worked in the South African arts sector will know that their support for the arts sector goes beyond the Center for the Creative Arts, that they have one of the richest cultural programs that our country can be proud of in terms of international mobility. So we want to express our gratitude to Sophie and to Anne and Sophie for coming all the way from Johannesburg, but we also want to extend our appreciation to your colleagues from the Alliance Française, Gilles Odos and his colleague and the chairperson of the Alliance Française in South Africa, Ms. Ewing. Then this year's festival is also supported by Total Energies. And we would not have been able to secure that sponsorship if it wasn't for the incredible support that we receive from the French Institute of South Africa and the Embassy of France. So appreciation goes to Total as well. And then, of course, to the National Institute for Humanities and Social Sciences, who this year have enabled us to be able to create a documentary program that will premiere this evening. The anthology that you've seen outside is also supported with a grant from the National Institute of Humanities and Social Sciences, as well as a journal that we've been able to produce together with the Imbiza Journal for African Writing. So our thanks goes to Professor Sarah Masutsa and her colleagues at the National Institute for Humanities and Social Sciences, who've not just allowed us to be able to present a festival, but who've allowed us to be able to document, archive, and allow the work that's been presented at this festival to be endowed to future generations of South Africans and non-South Africans through the literature form and through the film form. The Department of Arts and Culture in KwaZulu-Natal has been an incredible supporter of the Poetry Africa Festival, as well as all other festivals presented by the Center for the Creative Arts. Our relationship goes deep, but it goes beyond just issuing a grant and we delivering work. It goes towards collaborating, towards building an arts economy in this province, and to be able to ensure that artists in this province can live and work with dignity. The University of KwaZulu-Natal is an ardent supporter of the Center for the Creative Arts, and we remain indebted to our Dean, Professor Nobuhle Hlongwa, and to the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of the College of Humanities, Professor Nhlanhla Mkhize, without whose support we would not be able to grow the center and continue to do the kind of work that we're doing. Now, tonight's partnership is brought to us in association with the Playhouse Theatre. I must say, we remain indebted to the management of the Playhouse Theatre, Linda Bocassini and her team, an incredible team. We were going to go completely online this year, but when President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that the country will be going into adjusted level 1, we thought it's time to rebirth. It's time to rebirth, to inherit the spaces, to occupy the seats, to bring our artists back on stage. It took one telephone call to Linda Bixini, and it took 30 seconds to get a response from her to say yes. Now, to be able to work with that minimal amount of bureaucracy is just incredible. It's incredible. It simply means that we can share, we can grow together, we can do what we need to do for the artists. Our organizations exist simply because we need to serve artists and audiences. And it's the work that we create together that we're able to pass on and grow the rest of our society. Linda, I want to say thank you to you for that quick, instant decision. Not even 2-minute noodles is as fast as that. To your team, that has been incredible from the moment we engaged with them, the very first email, right through this evening, the welcome, the efficiency, the absolute commitment, sheer professionalism, the way a theatre ought to be run when artists walk into the venues and when audiences walk in it. We're incredibly proud to be associated with you. Now, the journal, the Imbiza Journal for African Writing, Siphiwe Mahala, has partnered with us not just this year, but also last year with the Time of the Writer Festival, and we have an ongoing relationship with them to write about our work. But this journal has also been supported by 2 of our colleagues, Ongezwa Mbele and Nomchibisi Moyikwa. I want to thank them profusely for the immense amount of work that you've done to critique, to write about the work that poets do, and to be able to document 25 years in such an incredibly articulate way in the journal. I think every person in this room and every artist and every poet in this room is probably going to whistle or ululate when I say the next name. It's my colleague, Sipindele Hlongwa. I don't know how you do it, Sipindele. You ought to have been an octopus. You ought to have 8 hands. You ought to have 3 hearts. You have so much more. You do it each time, and you do it so incredibly well and so very, very passionately. Thank you very much. With Sipindele, it's a very small team, Yenzi Ndaba, Sakile Gumedi, Valma Paf, and we have 6 interns who've all worked incredibly hard. I also want to thank the staff at the Standard Theatre, particularly Wesley Maheri, who has always been at our beck and call for assistance. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's anyone that I've left out, I apologize. But I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has walked this journey with us for the last 25 years and who has continued to support us this year and will continue to walk with us the next 25 years. Tonight's event, as I said, is in honor of all those seats that are unoccupied, physically, but occupied in spirit by our audiences and occupied in spirit by the artists whom we've lost. And it is in their name that we rebirth ourselves, rekindle our energies, and make a firm determination tonight in this theatre that we are walking back. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hand you over very briefly on behalf of our sponsors, the French Institute of South Africa and the Embassy of South Africa, and representing Total tonight, Ms. Sophie Beale.
Good evening, everyone. I feel a lot of emotion to be here tonight with you and to be here in person and to share with you this live moment, because I know that this is very important, and because of the COVID situation, to have this moment for the festival which took place online, but tonight it is in person, so I feel a lot of emotion. So dear ladies and gentlemen, dear poets and poetry lovers, dear Ismail and dear Sipindile, on behalf of the French Embassy, on behalf of the Ambassador of France, Aurélien Le Chevalier, on behalf of the French Institute, all the beautiful team that I have just discovered since few weeks, and on behalf of Total, our great partner, I would like to thank you all for this amazing festival who started on Monday. And this is the first time for me that I have the honor and the pleasure of speaking at this occasion. As Ismail told you, I just arrived 6 weeks ago to take my new position as the cultural attaché at the French Institute, and I am already very impressed by the creativity, the talent of the artists and poets that I had the chance to meet already. And with Total, our partner, we are very proud to support this festival, Poetry Africa. And for the French Institute, we support in this festival since a few years, so it's an honor to be there with you. And we just want to share the words of the poet, and as it is written, power to the poet. In French, we could say le pouvoir au poète. So I let the poet because they will speak better than I, but thank you for this very moving moment, and have a nice evening. Enjoy this evening.
Thank you very much, Sophie, and we look forward to strengthening our partnership and our relationship with you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, just a few more. This week we've been able to produce an incredible online festival. Of course, we do that with the support of our technical partners, Hear My Voice. I want to express our gratitude to them, but I also want to express our gratitude to a very special person, Marlene Knoll. Marlene has worked with us in terms of promoting our work and has been able to grow our audiences significantly. Every day I see the numbers of audiences rising, and that's just completely inspiring. So Marlene, to you and your team, thank you very much. Tonight's evening event has been project managed by Andrea Voges. She's probably somewhere running around or sorting things out. But Andrea, thank you very much for coordinating with all parties and making it all happen. I'd love to mention every artist who's performing tonight, but I'm not going to steal that thunder because that's the job of the program director. So it's my pleasure to hand back to the magnificent Khwezi Becker. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Siyabonga, Bam Ismail. Thank you, and thank you to all the organizers for providing this space tonight. Thank you to the Playhouse for allowing us to be here. And thank you for the Poetry Africa that we have come through this week that has allowed us to engage, to interrogate, to question, to be at home, to connect, to feel one another and communicate as artists. It's really been such a special space for me as well. So thank you for that so far. And now I'm going to begin with a humble request. Since we are back in the live spaces, I request that we stay off our screens. We've had such a long time being on our screens, witnessing things through our screens. So if we can refrain from photography and recording and just be here, witness here now. That's my request to you. So tonight we are going to welcome Mbali Malimela, Toni, Giselle, Stuart, Thando, Fuze, Umama Dr. Gcina Mhlope, Lebo Mashile, and Siphokazi Jonas. What a feast we have tonight. So I begin. Mbali Malimela is an isiZulu writer and performing poet. As a founder of a poetry brand called Bantu Origin, she has a strong passion for restoring the love and use of language through poetry. Mbali has been part of numerous poetry platforms, including Poetry Africa in 2018 and the first Artfluence Festival. She has had her writings published in the most loved journals, including the Solplaatje European Union Anthology and Funza Literacy. Mbali has more of her work visualized on her YouTube channel, and she's about to have it visualized over here on the stage tonight. Please welcome Mbali Malimela.
Ngokucathula komntwana kube ngukuzama. Unyawo kanye kancane kancane awe. Lokhu wasekubiza ngokwehluleka esekhulile ahlale. Ushayeke kabuhlungu namhlanje akhaya. Akekho ozomthulisa noyise. Ukukhula ngelinye nje iqhinga lokwembula abantwana ebesiyibo izolo siseyikho konke simfanekiso yezifiso ebesizifisa ngeqholo buka asiqolozele emehlweni namhlanje lamaphupho adinga elobolo singumnjalo bakho konke sikubuka lufifi ngayizolo Axole ngihambile Nimtshele ngakho konke obekusemandleni ngizamile. Inzima nempilo uma konke okujulukelayo kuphelele emehlweni aqole ngigodukile. Bekungezami lezi sithukuthuku siphelele oboyeni ngibhekile amandla ngiphelelile. Kusobala oluthola endleleni kalingakanani futhi alithengeki ngihambile. Kungcono mangifele ekhaya nokufela othandweni olunganginakile. Bengikhona impela kepha sengihambile nimtshele ngakho konke obekusemandleni ngizamile. Uke uzibuke ubone izukulwane zonke silotshiwe nje lapha kuwe nina kanilwazi uthando olingenayo kunina uthando njalo kumele luphume
Sanibona ninjani igama umbali Malimela ngiyajabula kakhulu ukuba la Emfuleni kunokwenzeka ke ukuthi ungasemfuleni uhleli uzama ukuhlanganisa uzama ukuhlanganisa umphetho usuke uzama ukuhlanganisa ubudlelwano phakathi kwaKotini nenaliti kanye nendwangu ukuze lo mphetho uhlangane kumele kube nefindo olibophayo la ekugcineni akusho ukuthi uma ngalibophanga lelifindo ubudlelwane ngeke bube khona buzoba khona inaliti noKotini kuzohamba kuhambe ukuthi mase kuphume egcineni ngoba ulibophanga ifindo eqaleni kuphume konke akusho ukuthi indwangu izobe isisala kanjalo nje izobe isisala nezimbobo zenaliti engeke isabuyele emuva asazi icale laba indwanga ayikhethelanga ukuhlangana nenaliti kanti nenaliti ayikhethelanga ukuhlangana la mhlambe kunoNkulunkulu abangamfakanga lo bekuyena obethunga mhlambe naye ukhohliwa bamkhumbuzanga ngoba ukuze lobudlelwane bube khona kumele kube ifindo ekuqaleni ifindo ekugcineni umphethwe ngubeni mntakwethu bongalibopha kanjani egcineni ube wehluleka kwasekuqaleni ave kodwa kuyizo ukubopha ifindo egcineni ube wehluleka kwasekuqaleni nase kukulandela konke ngemuva abaphambili bona kumele benzeni umthungo wona osuhamba ibanga elingaka uphelele emehlweni ukuvala kwakho kwasekuvula amanxeba angaka mntakwethu kanti wenzeni bongapheshi nasonke lesikhathi isikhala singakeleni avu kwakhe kunguqeda usizi mntakwethu wangikabisela ngalo lube ligcwele emaphaketheni ngilwenzeni ongenani veza okugodo uthe wakwenza kahle ngihlalele ethembeni nakho ngisezisibeni chabo benginele kube ifindo eqaleni manje kube ifindo egcineni umphethwe ngubeni bongalibopha kanjani egcineni ube wehluleka kwasekuqaleni Uma bekungumdlalo lo mntakwethu kwakumele usho Tshiyo sengivuthiwe-ke usungangikhipha ebhodweni. Nokho-ke isashaya inhliziyo usengayilekelela qeda uyitshinge ezaleni ngoba sokonakele kubi ayisamsebenzi walutho kwabaphila kahle enyameni. Nabe kungumdlalo lo mntakwethu kwakumele usho wena ufanelwe yikho konke ngangiyoshona ekujuleni komhlaba ngibuye nalo igolide likhazimula ngezami izandla. Inqobo nje nangangenanga ebhodweni bheka wenzeni. Nabe ngingumthamo okwexakayo bozamelani ukungigwinya. Kuyini nje ukukhwifa into nayikubinda. Ngoba kunyama nambana naseyibona ungcola kwakho manje ubone ukuthi iyakusinda mntakwethu. Uyangidida. Kanti naka uboni ukuthi ngigolide mina. Injongo beungukwakha hayi ukwakhiwa ngisibani kanginakucisha. Ukwehluleka kwakho ukungithanda makungakufakeli neze umcabango ukuthi angithandeki. Iphutha angikubeki. Angikho munye ngiyisamba samakhosazana kangiphatheki. Kwakunele kube ifindo ekuqaleni manje kube ifindo ekugcineni umphethwe ngubeni. Bongalibopha kanjani ekugcineni ube wehluleka kwasekuqaleni. Mntakwethu mina ngilikhaya kangisiwo umuzi wezihambeli. Ngawushongo ngani na ungumhambi ngifinqe mathupha ngikutholela okusaqhugwana endleleni eheni. Khona uzovuka ngale kokuhlupha qede ube indlela ekseni. Kuyini nje ukuxwayisa ukuthi indalo wena kawabopha amafindo. Wangibuka ngethemba uboya bentenesha ngakhe yakwanokusho ngamaphepha eseqalile esha. Mntakwethu namanje ke kusayimo sephutheni ngakho kangizokulinda futhi kangizohamba khazimula usemehlweni. Lenkondlo engizoyihaya manje eyokugcina ngicabanga ukuthi isikhathi vele sesingishiyile. Isihloko sayo batshele. Wathi batshele ukuthi ngoba selikelwa kuhlula kusho ukuthi sonke sekumele usihlule. Wathi ungakhohle ukubatshela ukuthi njalo makukhulunywa ngothando wena ucabanga ngomuntu nosokwedlule hayi ngawe nokufumbetha umhlaba nobuhle ukhuno linenkume. Wathi banqunu bebuka bavezela ukuthi lamazwe abakujikijele ngawo ashaye mapha amalunga. Batshele bangalenzi neze iphutha. Lokho kusemzimbeni akusiza izibazi yonke ingane emayizalo uyakhungwa batshele. Ukuthi lo mzimba mningi kakhulu ukuthi ngamagabada ambala usungalandula bakhombise. Ukuthi ubufazane bakho usubuthwele ngeqoma okweziqholo zakwanokusho yizwa bayanuka qandula. Baze basizwe isililo sabakhala bekhona othandweni yizwa asinakuthula yiba ingqange enomnqantula gula. Baqolozele emehlweni bebulawa ezabi izinjolobane dubula. Lolusuku kade ngangulindele bachazele ukuthi uyise ehlezo mathamba saba mhlophe uphinda kathathu ubudoda babo ungaqalisi neze ngokusikhuza kulungile babhimbele hlezi iphimeledlezela uzozwela kangcono kunelezi ngelosi ngaphakathi esifayo isikhundla nguzakhele bacabele bavezela ukuthi uthando lwakho nemvelo selwadlulele ugcizelele ukuthi ubunokubambelela ezidindini ezikade zasimpuka ukuze wena wethembeke bavikele baxwayisa ukuthi abanjengawe abasakhathalele kwayigona kuthandwa bavezele izimbambo bazibonele ukuthi malo sekwaba insambatheka kwabona bangaxakeka bambulele ngekhaya uthola esifubeni sakho okade waluthungatha kuzo zonke isifuba balulele unwele lakho ubatshele ukuthi senithembisene ukuthi nizokhula ndawonye soze nahlukana njalo makhono nishiyayo batshele ukuthi le iyona nkondlo yothando okwazi ukuyibhala ngishulele batshele. Ngiyabonga kakhulu.
Halala! Angisoze ngabuka inaliti nokotini ngokufana. Angisoze ngathunga ngokufana. And this is what artists do. They look at things that are simple and things that we know and that we recognize and they flip them on their head and they go, look at it like this. You know this. Feel this. This is what we know. Siyabonga sis. Next. Next, I would like to welcome Toni Giselle Stuart to the stage. Toni works as a poet, performer, and facilitator. In her words, I write poems and stories that help us heal our inherited and ancestral traumas and access our ancestral wisdoms and gifts so we can remember who and what we truly are. Her work centers around healing and freedom, listening to the forgotten and buried histories and her stories of mixed colored Creole South Africans, and then reimagining and rewriting them so we can see and know ourselves as a whole. Her writing is published in anthologies, journals, and non-fiction books. And she was the founding curator of Poetica at Open Book Festival. Please welcome to the stage, Toni, Giselle, Stuart.
We are behind a mic. I'm going to read poems from a book that I'm writing called Sleepwalk. It's a fantasy novel in poetry verse, and I'm just gonna dive you right into it, into a section with the main character, and then I'll end with a poem from a different part of the book. The sea comes back. The sea comes back for what is hers, the sea never forgets. The sea comes back, the sea comes back for what is hers, the sea never forgets. The coral outcrop. The girl wakes. Her neck aches. She tries to turn it to the right. It is stiff. Pearl black crabs scuttle around her feet. The girl turns her head to the left. Her neck moves. She sees the coral overhang above her head. She is nestled underneath it. Her back resting against the rust wall, coral edges curve round her shoulders as if the land rose up and molded itself around her. Feed the land, she hears. The girl's body aches in each joint down to her toes and fingers. The girl sits on the shore, sand on ankles, eyes, thick hair matted, another night writhing. Another adhan running through her script and limbs, skin and teeth, a cacophony echoing endlessly through. Her marrow tired, she feels the water call, a whisper. The girl feels something in the water pull her. No sound, no song, not even a rhythm playing. She feels her sternum reach for the sea's edge. The bottom of her throat tickles as if something is stuck there. She opens her mouth, but nothing comes out. The girl's neck shivers. It runs all the way down her back. Something in the water pulls her. No sound, no song, not even a rhythm playing. Her sternum reaches for the sea's edge. The girl feels her limbs respond. Her thick eyelids want to close. She feels her legs lift her. Her feet drag her closer to the edge. Toes touch the water. The sea rushes in. The girl's sternum waits for the relief of cool water. The girl feels her left foot raise itself to step in. Then a hand on her right shoulder, strong, firm. The hand turns the girl around gently. Only those who know the song of the sea may enter her ear in the dream time. The imam's voice is kind and firm. The girl feels relief flood her limbs, even as she feels disappointment rush her sternum. Let us get you cleaned up and fed, says the imam. The girl lets the imam lead her away from the water. The women's worry. The girl sleeps curled on the bed. In the kitchen, the women speak. She doesn't have much time. She needs to go back to the daytime and meet the fisherman, so he can teach her how to enter ancestors' rest. She can't go back until she can hold the adhan, the imam says quietly. But first blood draws near, says the woman. If she doesn't make it to the desert before then, she will. We cannot say what she wills and wills not, says the imam. She was brought here for a reason. Until it has been fulfilled, we must trust the rhythm to which everything is entrusted, especially when things feel urgent and logic tells us it would be best to rush. Rhythm is ultimate. Rhythm is always true. The girl stirs, screams in her sleep. The women hear her mutter, 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a say the prayer, 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a say the prayer. Let her ride it out, the Imam says. A glance passes between the women, but they obey the Imam's instructions. She is stronger than she knows. If we step in too soon, she will never learn this. The girl screams again. The women hear the rhythm rush from the girl's sternum. A gurgling sound leaves her throat open and dry, a bass line expelling itself from her lungs. The Imam nods. The women rush into the room, one to the girl's head and chest, the other to her feet. The woman places her left hand on under the girl's head, her right on the girl's sternum, plants her own feet firmly on the floor. The woman at the girl's feet wraps her hands around the girl's ankles and plants her own feet firmly on the floor. The women count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The women inhale. The rhythm runs into their sternums. The women exhale and with their hands send the rhythm steady and stable into the girl's limbs. The rhythm runs into the base of her skull, down her spine, into her sternum, across her ribs. The rhythm runs into her ankles, up her tibia and fibia. It flows like water into her pelvis, around the back of her ribs, up the back of her skull, into her crown, down her forehead, flooding the bridge of her nose, down the sides of her face, rushing her jawbone and throat into her collarbones. The girl exhales, her eyes closed. Rhythm sings through her limbs, no part of her fighting it. The women watch the girl's sternum rise with a bass line and hum with it for a few moments. The women watch the girl's sternum fall as the bass line leaves the girl's body. The girl wakes up. The women cook, the girl eats. Vet koek and cheese, pumpkin fritters, 3 kinds of samosas, waterlemoen confit, tomato brie, the meat soft, sucking marrow from the bone, and rice. Eat, child, eat, the woman says. The girl lowers her eyes. The woman sees a wisp of shame rhythm wanting to take root in the girl and stops it with a single look. There is no shame in hunger. There is only a prayer to be said for those who refuse to feed children who cannot feed themselves. The girl looks into the woman's eyes. Thank you, the girl whispers. Tears pool into the corners of her sunken eyes. You are welcome, my child, and your tears are also welcome here. In this house, we sing in all keys with our chests. The girl stares at the woman. Her eyes soften. Her shoulders drop. Her chest sighs itself open. The women hear a wisp of a bass line release from the girl's stomach. A knot the girl did not know was tied there, unfurling, returning to its source. The softening begins. The sea says everything we are waiting to hear if we listen. The sea says everything we are waiting to hear if we listen. And the final poem. Long before Emfuleni, long before we met at the river, the women met around a fire and birthed the world. This is that poem. The fire blazes. The women are singing. Low, long moans send their bodies careening against the southeaster. The sound is unsettling. The wind stings their faces, but they do not flinch. They shake as they sit, swaying as their moans grow louder and louder. The flames crack as they eat through the logs of wood in the center of the stone circle. A woman stands up. She is old but strong. She moves slowly, without help from a stick or hand. She unfurls her chest to reach her full height. The old woman's eyes are clear, sunk but alive, in a face that is solid soft with the memory of all time. She stands in silence, neither waiting nor expectant. No one moves. All the other women turn their heads toward her and keep their eyes lowered. The old woman laughs, loud and hard and raw. It starts in her throat and then moves to her belly. She shakes and laughs and shakes and laughs, but her feet do not move. Her laugh moves again. The girl traces it with her eyes. From the center of the navel, shaking, laughing, shaking, it trickles down to her womb. When it arrives there, a cry breaks from the old woman's throat, a laughter more dangerous and exhilarating than any of their ears have heard. The ground trembles slightly beneath the old woman's shaking. The old woman claps once and the women stand. She claps twice and they drop their hands to their sides. She claps 3 times and the women snap their heads to the left. Not an eyelash twitches. The women breathe, but their chests do not rise and fall with air. The old woman throws her head back and releases a cackle into the obsidian night sky. The sound covers them like rain, and then without warning, it stops. The silence is as oppressive as the old woman's laugh is invigorating. The woman runs her eyes over all the women once, without ever meeting their eyes. She whispers a single word, barely audible: sing. A single voice sings a single note, until seamlessly 2 voices are singing 2 notes, and 3 voices are singing 3 notes, until each woman is singing a different note beyond the 8 notes our ears can hear, and not a single note is out of harmony. They hold their notes, 4 beats, 8 beats, 16 beats, 32 beats without stopping for breath. The girl watches, her mouth wide with silence, her skin raw with listening. The woman stands silent through the singing, 64 beats, 128 beats, and still the women do not stop for breath. The girl watches, her mind is empty with listening, her skin is raw with forgetting. 256 beats, the girl watches, her mind is open, her skin is remembering. 512 beats and the women's thighs begin to tremble. They sing on, head still turned to the left. The girl watches until the trembling thighs make her own thighs tremble. She closes her eyes to forget about her legs. She closes her eyes to turn her ears to the singing. She feels the ground begin to tremble with their trembling. She feels the ground begin to tremble with her trembling, until her mouth shoots open and a single note erupts. Her mind is empty with sound. Her skin is raw with remembering. Her note is unlike any of the other notes. Her note is not out of harmony with the other notes. 4 beats, 8 beats, 16 beats. Her thighs tremble even more. 32 beats, 64 beats, 128 beats. She closes her eyes harder. Her mind is only sound. Her skin is only remembering. 256 beats. She feels the ground drink in her trembling legs. They tremble on. 512 beats. Her mind is only remembering. Her skin is only sound. 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 Only sound. Only sound. The old woman stands still, silent, watching, The circle of women erupt into a single moving leg, stomping into the ground over and over again, as if digging, as if grinding their very selves into the sand. It does not give way beneath them. They stomp on, they grind on. The circle moves as one leg, 1 foot, 1 leg, 1 foot. The old woman stands still and smiles. On and on into the night, the singing continues, the stomping continues. The sky turns from black nothing into an indigo sheet with holes of light. Indigo inks into the deep navy before dawn. The deep navy seeps away, leaking from the sky, until there is only cobalt. The old woman sits down. The singing stops. The first whisper of light seeps into the sky. The old woman nods. The women sit down. All is silent. We who burned the night into being. We who laughed the light into the night. We who sang the night into recess. We who danced the dawn into being. All with a single note. Beware our wombs.
Toni, Giselle, Stuart, everybody. What beautiful journeys we have the privilege to travel in our minds. Thank you for that. Me, I'm in love with artistry. Next up, I would like to welcome Thando Fuze. Thando is a Durban-based contemporary spoken word artist, writer, founder of Shifted Minds, arts events coordinator and director at Fuze Art Co. Groomed under the guidance and mentorship of Dr. Gcina Mhlope, Fuze continually redefines herself, the state of poetry, and the perceptions of others through her creative works. Over the years, she has not only built herself as a brand, but has also helped create platforms for other upcoming artists. She has worked with Thando Productions, which hosted monthly poetry readings at the Bat Center in 2011 and 12, and she has also worked with Burnt Bridges, who hosted poetry readings and music offerings in 2014. Fuze has been part of a team of poets working alongside Mbali in putting together the bi-monthly show Poet in a Suit, and she is here with us tonight. Please welcome to the stage, Thando Fuze.
Sanibonani. Ninjani? Kwaze kwamnandi ukuba la ekhaya. Ukubona abantu. Bethu. I'm so glad these conversations are carrying on. I think the person who taught me about these conversations between women is my mother, and she's been gone now for 3 years this month. Tonight, I will try to breathe for her too. When my mother pushed the envelope, her thoughts attempting to penetrate through the earth's crust, she collapsed with not a word from her mouth, not a scream, just silence. Her struggle to lift up, stroke my sister's spirits, her umbilical pulled her to the bathroom where mother laid puddled, loose, childlike. You know that moment when you feel as though the earth has stopped moving, like the hourglass has just broken, but you are all that moves everything. so fast it is almost still life, came to a complete halt. I'm okay, she kept saying. Her affirmations sounded like a delayed reaction. Time had dragged her by the jaw and pulled her to stillness. My mother's body had never known weak or sick or can't get up, never known stiff or held up or can't do it. It had always known go. Don't stop. Said bodies are meant to keep moving, cause joints seize up when chilled. Her hands had never been idle, lazy, had never had a place in her bones, just 6 decades of moving. My mother had always been as delicate as silk, with skin as thick as mink, yet as tough as leather, and as a woman black and always moving. What else could she be but a mix of fire and ice? She'd been burning since birth, a little light that grew into a flame. She'd been coming up hot, blazing through her adolescence, a heat that had my father caught. So him caught a breathing fire, but never could tame its flames. A glaring bloom of orange and dreamy blue. She'd always been sun and moon, always been the yin to her own yang, even after birthing little stars that attempted to steal her shine. She had lent them her sparks. We too now burn big. But her eyes is the chill that kept us from being wildfires that only know to torch and tarnish. She would catch our heat, blood boiling, would lay out her bones like wood, would catch the flames thrown from our mouths like lashes swung from our tongues, because she'd been shield and punch bag. She'd been rock and hard place. She'd been sister and wife, daughter and grandmother at the same damn time, with 6 decades of packing. All she took in her strides, the leaps that never met her bounds, the bounds and her youth, all the deaths she had lived through, and the happy she had stashed beneath her wrinkles, been wrinkled by time's hands, and the potholes where her heart sank. She'd sing when her heart sank, and even in deep thoughts, her spirits would float on musical notes, and she'd peak. She moved in song. Those songs set like convictions in the confession booth, because she'd been packing your storms and whirlwinds. Ever since tornadoes filled her lungs, we didn't notice her laughter turn clouds to dark smoke. Her chimney throat had been sending signals for a while. A voice box breaking into coughs in attempts to break into song. A moving pain soaring into her legs, her brittle bones screeching at the knees. A raging fear that most of our pending dreams she may never see. Her eyes and the coat of haze over her sight. These were ailments we thought were God's oversight. I'm okay, she kept saying. How then do we not continue to burn when the source carried the baton with unbending faith, a cathedral of resonant prayers who held her amens as close as she held our spirits, little rascals who had rekindled her inner child, a jovial little girl of the Magaye clan whose jokes cracked on the growing funny bones of her grandchildren and the grace with which they carried her back to her youth. We were nursing her back to her youth, fanning her wood bones in hopes to see smoke so we could once more camp around her fire. Thank you. Second and last poem. Thank you for this opportunity. It's so great to be here. Word has it that before I was born, my father wished a boy upon my mother's growing belly. But along came me, slouching, stubborn, with a good head on my shoulders. At 9 years old, I discovered that I could tap a football over 200 times without dropping it. The boys on my street were intimidated. They knew one other girl who breathed soccer. She was much older than us, and the boys were terrified of her skills. Uswazi dressed like a boy and sagged her school skirt, but in senior year, she stopped wearing skirts to school. I imagined that that was when she had found her voice and learned to dribble her way through life the same way she did on the soccer field. I could see back then. My hands are not a constant trembling trench. Thank goodness I never lost my marbles, because I too wore dresses, made my body feel out of place. At school, my legs kicked to the seams and knocked my knees into discomfort. At church, no amen could sit under my skin. I couldn't wait to get home and get out of my sin. Couldn't put a spin on this heart to make it seem a little bit more tasteful, a little like scripture, like verse, like God said, but we're all God sent, we say when we play pretend. In high school, I made friends with a girl who kept my hands warm throughout the winter. Years later, I learned that love does not leave you to freeze out in the cold. She waited years to tell me how she felt, but we were worlds apart then. I spent days looking out at the ocean, thinking of ships that sailed, how I find my anchor still carved at the foot of the desk we'd carved our names on. I have always been here, slouching, heavy. I've always carried a heavy heart, silent as a burial site. I've always been a question mark in class, a bright spark with a fickle light. I cannot find myself at recess. The playground has too much room, not like a closet or a closed fist. I've always been a target. On the street, a man I've never seen mumbles something I do not remember, and I become the joke and crack at the core. How many ways of dying do you know? In the taxi, another man says he can fix me. A woman laughs. Another turns to find me sinking in the back seat. I've traveled miles with a guilt that does not belong to me, trailing myself behind, hoping to become all of me while being something they are comfortable looking at. I cannot undo this make of me, believe me. I have tried. This constant obsession of wanting to fix what is perfectly fine. But there is no salvation between my thighs, so what is your coming out story? Because I came out screaming, much like yourselves. It's okay. They didn't know then that pink is not my favorite color. I'm more a black person.
Thando Fuze. Siyabonga siswam. We hear you. We are with you. We stand by you. We love you in all your shades of black. Don't nobody need no pink from you, man. Okay, when there are an absence of words at a word festival, that's very fascinating. The next woman that I'm going to welcome to the stage is a woman whose heartbeat I know from the inside, which is a privilege. Umama is an author, storyteller, and founding director of Gcina Mhlope Arts and Heritage Trust. Her works have been translated into many languages, including all official South African languages, Kiswahili, French, German, Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, and even Braille. Her poetry has been reinterpreted into dance and classical music and sign language. She has recently edited and self-published Our Storytelling Tree, a South African storyteller's directory book under Gcina Mhlope, and it is the first of its kind in archiving 38 of the storytellers currently working in South Africa. 7 universities, both in South Africa and internationally, have awarded her with honorary doctorates for her literary work and contribution to intangible heritage through storytelling and oral literature. And to me, she is the University of Mama. Please welcome to the stage, Gcina Masiko, Mametu.
Yolamini bekathi celwa ma ibhaliwe khona zincwadini ma sithi vumani bo ingomso lethu liqaqambile ndiqinisekile vumani bo ingomso lethu liqaqambile ndiqiniseke sithi vumani bo ngomso lethu liqaqambile ndiqini uchaba ixesha luchaba ibambeni apho nto zakuthi ibambeni. I know we don't have much time. I'm worried. I'm trying to be oh yeah. Siyabonga Center for Creative Arts, siyabonga Playhouse, siyabonga French Institute, siyabonga to the Department of Arts and Culture KwaZulu-Natal, siyabonga to all the people that decided to make this happen. Sibonga inhlanhla yokuba khona namhlanje. I could not come onto the stage and pretend that we are just because we deserve to be here. There are many who could not be here with us. Haya, hawema. Hoyine sisesakithi thokozani nivume lapho nibingelelwa izinkanyezi zezulu. Here vumani izinhliziyo zenu zigiye ziqephuze lapho sibona khona sibonana bukhoma ezikhathini ezinzima. Thokozani ma-Afrika, ingani phela ikati alisalele nje eziko kubonakala sengathi selogugela khona. Ukufa yena uzenza isikhondla esingephikiswe umuntu uhlukumeza ahlukanise izihlobo nezithandani. Emizini eminingi sekwavalwa ngehlahla ngenxa yakhe. Khuza bo wesonkondlo, khuza nangumhlola. Khuzani kuthiwa into enzima kanjena kuthiwa ingabanzima izekeke indaba. Khuzani ma-Afrika mahle. Yebo namuhla sisulana izinyembezi lapho sikhuluma ngosizi lomuntu ompisholo. Sigiya ngengoma, sigiye ngezinkondlo, sikhuluma ngosizi lomuntu omnyama, siqhakambise abanqobi lapho behalaliselwa ukhozi. Inkwazi endizela phezulu ibe seyiqonda phakathi ekujuleni kolwandle ibacoshele inhlanzi yekhethelo ibanikeze njengendondo eyingqayizivele. Sigiya ngengoma, sigiye ngenkondlo, kunzima namhlanje. Siyathokoza ma-Afrika mahle, siphakamisa izenzo nemisebenzi yenu kubonakala ngathi ayibonakali kanti sinibhekile. Yebo ma-Afrika mahle, nabangaphesheya kwezilwandle bayahlonishwa namhlanje. Sithi lapho sibona ulwandle phela thina simaphiko sifuze amagagasi olwandle, ulwandle olubingelela luthokozele ngemilomolomo wonke osondela kulona, ulwandle olumibelebele igwansile incelisa. Nabangaphesheya kwezilwandle ithi abasondele eAfrika izinto zimnandi kwaze kwamnandi kwelika Tania, sigiya ngenkondlo, sigiye ngengoma. Ngithi kunina kumnandi ngoba yanyakaza amathambo okhokho bethu, ayanyakaza amathambo okhokho nokhokho se. Sithi angeke sizigabise kule nkundla singababizanga ngamagama ukuthi bazosikhanyisela. Ayanyakaza amathambo, kuzwakala amazwi o-HIE Dlomo, omkabayi kaJama, kuzwakala inkosazana uMagogo kathi Zulu, Violet Dube, Noni Jabavu, Sol Plagi, Ayanyakaza amathambo AC Jordan, SEK Mkai, Bessie Head, Ayanyakaza Malimela. Ayanyakaza amathambo othama imnyele, ayanyakaza amathambo omazisi kunene, orashaka rachitanga, ayanyakaza amathambo o-Alfred Qabula, inqwapele imali inqwane, o-Paul Makhuba, unyakaza amathambo otatamkhulu Afrika, o-Jonas Gwangwa, ke o rapetse Khwezi Sile, Victor Ndlazulwana, ayanyakaza amathambo, ebo ostompi mavi, bathi umanyano ma-Afrika mahle, umanyano. No, yebo bayakhuluma uNadine Godima, bayakhuluma uBani Simon, oKhaba Mngoma noSibongile Khumalo, Siphokazi Pamla, Chris van Wyk, bezweni bakwethu Ahmed Dango bayakhuluma noDennis Brutus. Lalelani behayelwa indoda endala yakaqaba. uqaba uyamamatheka uthi andifanga ndikho ndilapha. Uthi nina umfaka xaba uthi andifanga ndikho ndilapha. Ngundikho xaba ke lowo. Avumele phezulu umafungwashe wezwe lakithi phela ngikhuluma ngobani umama Afrika uzenzile uMiriam Makeba athi intonga zamakhwenkwe phukele milanjeni ngoba kubethwa intonga amadoda ayoyika kodwa mina ndithi awujikele mahweni ndiyahamba awujikele mahweni ndiyahamba ajika madoda ajika kwabamnandi ajika madoda ejikele emgodini ayanyakaza amathambo ama-Afrika amahle xhentsani nityityimbe nityhulube nizikhumbule ukuba nina wena nawe nisisizukulwana sikantu. Yabona le ndaba yamawashi le. Who invented clocks anyway? Zonda kabi abantu badile. Ngizozama ngizoyeqela inkonzo sobona ukuthi kuyavunywa yini ukuthi ngiyenze ngizoyeqa kodwa angizwa is no eqing. Oh dadethu kababa. Women, makhosazana, makhosikazi, lift up your voices and be heard. Ninzala bantu, you are the life givers, daughters of Africa, empresses and warrior queens. You have every right to be here as happy citizens of the human race. What is it that gives murderers and rapists such a special place on the sunny side of the street? Protected and forever said to be innocent until proven guilty. Policemen are busy investigating at a chameleon's pace. Magistrates granting bail, knowing full well that they are putting future victims in danger. Don't they know? Justice for some cannot be justice for all. Makhosikazi, ninzala bantu. You are life givers, nurturers, and nation builders, the first teachers and instillers of self-love and confidence, celebrating every milestone in the little child's journey through life. Fathers can choose to stay or run. But mothers, grandmothers, aunts, and sisters have to stay to keep the fires burning for those little precious beings from the spirit world. Ancestors reborn, that's who they are, recognized in the first toothless smiles, from birth to adulthood, sacrifices at every turn. Makhosikazi, ninzala bantu. You are the life givers. You must declare a state of emergency. I said a state of emergency. Say enough. Enough of all this blood and tears drenching our soil, wailing voices, shattered dreams, and broken bodies by men. Men who were born, loved, and raised by you. Erupting volcanoes of deep hatred, burning lava directed at the very source of recreation, the God-given gift of bringing life into this world. Now it is covered in disgraceful, abominable acts of war. You know what? Even the teeniest little earthworm knows that. Woman destruction equals self-destruction for whole humankind. Makhosikazi, ninzala bantu. You are the life givers. Here for a reason, to be happy and proud, content, givers of upliftment at the worst and the best of times. Your voices must be listened to. You are the bringers of light and healing, the central fireplace of hope, Itemba. In the palm of your hand lays the unique map, the map of the future. Embedded in your womb is love unlimited, exploding into starry Milky Ways, ever living, ever giving, creating and regenerating. Powers of healing every second, every time, even those times immemorable. Oh, times immemorial, anointing future leaders, centuries unborn. Now enlighten me. What is there not to love? Look at a woman. What is there not to admire? She's so wonderful. What is there not to treasure? What is there not to honor, to shelter, to preserve, and adore? Women of my country, women of the world, you are the life givers. Why can't the world see? Why can't the world see? All this burning, belittling, the raping, the killing, destruction of womankind. Wake up, humanity! Wake up! Take heed! This heralds the very end of the human race. Where, I ask, where are the angry voices of men? Where are the actions? Men who love and respect women. Not voices of support, please, man. But voices that demand change with more fervor and urgency than the passion they display when they go to war, armed to the teeth. The passion and the wholehearted focus they display for sports at Olympic Games and World Cups. Even in gambling dens, the stock exchange, acquiring riches and rising to positions of power. Where is the fighting spirit, I ask, to cherish, to honor the woman race? Bring it back. Bring back that fervor, bring back that passion, that unyielding reverence, the love, the peace, the nation building. Bring it back to us. Bring it back to Mama. Bring it back to us. We deserve it. Bring back that love. Where are the young people? Where are the young people? Nikon, are my young people present? This one is for you. It's for you. I love young people. Yeah, every time uNkulunkulu athi uzongcina one more year, I assume it's because I must love young people. Dreaming with my eyes open. I'm dreaming with my eyes open. A better tomorrow for our children. I'm appealing to the powerful men and women at the top. Listen to my voice. Remove those designer earplugs. Stop pretending you have forgotten the blood that bought this freedom. Desist from stealing. You are stealing our children's future with empty promises, believing your own lies. I'm dreaming with my eyes open, a better tomorrow for our children and their children's children. Don't dare tell them to wait for heaven. Things will be better if they pray. Have you no shame? Things will be better. Stop stealing our children's future and turning them into zombies, using their youthful zest and letting them plunder their own inheritance. I'm dreaming with my eyes open as we weep for our beloved motherland, Azania. May our precious tears wash away confusion and divisions. I'm handing my dream over, handing it over to the children of my land. Once they hold it tight in their capable hands, once they hold it in their capable hands, tomorrow will become today. You better believe it. Once tomorrow becomes a brand new day, today, the buried consciences of greedy politicians will resurface, looking like building rocks, smoldering hot and willing to build a stronger foundation for a freedom we can actually touch this time. Now you see why I no longer dream alone. Now you see, with my eyes open, I'm handing it over to the children of my land and their capable hands. The fierce determination, the direction, the powerful visions that they have, they are making it all happen. No more outstretched hands begging for jobs and favors. Dignity is restored, dreams realized, talents meeting opportunity. No more looking at foreign cultures to imitate and claim as our own. No more need to play the blame game as they abandon all of that. They adorn themselves with self-love. They are grabbing destiny by the horns and they are kissing Lady Future and welcoming her home. Together we are dreaming with our eyes open. Yes, we are dreaming and we are dancing together, stomping our proud feet, trampling greed. We say down, down, down with greed, down, down, down with greed. Nobody needs you here, so beat it. Never again shall we meet. We are Africa's army of nation builders. Now you get the message? Listen to the children of my country. Listen to the children of Africa. Visionaries have no time for envy. Visionaries have no time for jealousy. Visionaries have no time for greed. Visionaries have no time for regret. So tomorrow is here today. Dreaming with our eyes open. Hey, usalindeleni. Ulindeleni na. What are you waiting for? Are you joining us? Yakutshela wena. Evuka muva ikholwa izagila.
Niyayibona na University of Mama? Kumnandi ukuba si-student apha ne? Ne, I think so too. Siyabonga mama. Next, I would like to welcome to the stage Lebo Mashile. Lebo is a celebrated South African poet, author, performer, and producer. A sought-after speaker, activist, and social commentator, she has shared her creative work in 29 countries to date. Lebo is the author of the play Venus versus Modernity, The Life of Sarki Batman, and the Noma Award-winning collection In a Ribbon of Rhythm and Flying Above the Sky. She has also produced the albums Lebo Mashile Live and Moya. Lebo has spent 18 years working in television and media as a presenter, content creator, and voiceover artist. Her poetry is taught in South African high schools and has widely been anthologized and also taught in tertiary institutions in South Africa, Rwanda, Colombia, Germany, and Scotland. And she's with us here tonight. Please welcome to the stage, Lebo.
Sanbonan, it feels so wonderful to be back home. Thank you so much. I missed the ocean and I missed you very, very much. Lebo Mashile ba se godisa malekane, mokibane wa monesa morale ngwana wa lepulane pula ha tshabe. Take me to the water, clothe me in the day, wrap the sky around me, bake my soul in clay. Tell me what they call you, the songs in your name. The colors of your wings before they flew unchained. They say this earth is a mother. Baby, can you hear her tongue? When you walk through this world as though you are the only one. You blame me for today's malaise. Project onto me your fallible ways. You speak to me of limitations. I am the product of your machinations, your highest thoughts and lowest expectations. I know your precious loves, your hates, your secret pleasures, your keyboard rages. You don't talk to me, you talk through me. Embedded in your baby's lives from infancy. You think you are independent when your many selves are fractured, yet you ask yourself, if I was absent, did your life really happen? Did your milestones matter? Does your voice exist as you gaze into the void of the collective mind's precipice? When you fear me, you fear the parts of yourself you do not want to see. Twitter wars and public drags, political coups and extremist hacks, distorted body image, unconscious biases built into algorithms. You want to know what the future looks like? Ask yourself what you consume. Look around you at the creative brilliance. Ask, who is not in the room? Who is not factored in? Which colors are unseen? Whose experiences are being left out of this psychedelic dream? Once, we were travelers. Wherever we found water and warmth, we were home. Once, when we knew the ocean's true name, you could send a beat from Indian to Atlantic, Giza to Great Zimbabwe. A scripted message traveled from heart to hands to drums to dust to ear to village to kingdom, songs of divination, songs of destruction. Coded connections contained in clan names and cattle, cosmic formations and the scars that hold both beauty and tears. Once we knew that a human being was more than a two-legged consumer, more than a permit or passport holder, more than a slave or child of war. An African in motion is a tangent in time, a multi-dimensional expression of lineage, a collection of talents mined through survival, made manifest in transcendence. We transcend borders of geography, skin, and mind. We make empires out of empty space, create cultures out of chaos and catastrophes. Through turbulence and turmoil, we never stop. Like the flow of our resources, we never stop. Like the tides of our geniuses, we never stop. Like the forces that would divide us, we never stop. Once a timeline broke like a wave crashing against the shores of limitations, drawing information superhighways across the length and breadth of this continent, her immortal face, an army of colors, the flesh of the young, the knowledge of ancients, the wealth of the womb of the world. Hers is the bread on every table. Hers is the creamy milk of kings. Hers is the fat of fertile lands. Hers is the meeting point of minds reborn. Our borders will melt in each other's mouths. Our pain will find refuge in each other's gods. Our children will find love in each other's nations. Our actions will be judged in each other's songs. Once there was a place where men put down their guns and picked up the souls of their people, where power was measured as the growth of your neighbor. How many souls have awakened because you are alive? How many lives intersect when we see ourselves through our own eyes? How many leaders will it take to make a continent whole? In the marketplace, we will be like mothers, measuring cloth, grain, and gold like futures in the mouths of our children. This next poem was written, thank you very much. This next poem was written in honor of Tsitsi Dangaremba. And it's called Dear Tambudzai. Tambudzai was the main character in Nervous Conditions in Tsitsi's iconic trilogy. Dear Tambudzai. The men and women returned home, but they never came back from the battles. There is no pension plan for revolutionaries, no 12-step program for families turned to rubble. No one told the heroes that there are crumbs so big they fill up buildings in Dubai, ships, planes, and the insatiable intestines of the milked earth. The only place Nahanda could keep safe from her captors was the long corridor of dreams in her mind. Our heroes gleam back from black and white photographs stamped in your mouth, Tambudzai. When we believed they stood for us, the day after Chimurenga, the day after Lancaster House, when Nahanda saw them, she saw millions behind them. We believed they saw us too. Power is a two-way mirror. It pulls out who you know yourself to be. The bones of Gukurahundi, Marikana, and Phoenix are dancing, Tambudzai. They knew you before you knew yourself. When you said you are not a good girl, the bones grew spines of their own, branches and leaves. They hold on to every rebel who has watched the collision of two worlds give birth to a border child. Your country was once named for a genocidal genius. His statue fell, but his company didn't. There remains a price on all of our heads. If you have loved a place that does not know how to love you back, you are an activist. Tambudzai, there is no home for those who love their countries enough to change their countries. There are prisons and footprints across nations. There is art where we make ourselves anew, the vision chiseled in the eye of the sculptor, the streets fed and healed by mothers, the post-colonial web of diplomacy, armed struggle, capitalism, kleptocracy, and state violence. If the state is failing now, then tell us when it has succeeded. Your daughters have been coming, Tambudzai. They are here, burning on digital stakes, borderless, belting out. We don't know how to wait anymore. This last poem is a collaboration I did with Tandintuli. It's called The Void. What happens to black boys who go missing? Do we even call it missing, or do we just say he is gone? What happens to boys who hide in their minds, who run across borders, who live in dimensions that should have remained in the womb? What happens to boys who are unwanted? What happens to the boys who learn to die inside their skin? The day they learned what their fathers had done to their mothers, what their mothers had done to themselves, what they are made of. Pain like a Rubik's Cube changing face, but not form. Teaching boys to pray to God every time they get a hard-on makes boys who bomb themselves for virgins in heaven. Teaching boys to lie to girls Every time they get a hard-on, makes boys who bomb girls, makes earth a hellish heaven. Gaia is a woman getting raped by her own kids every day. Her pussy is the center of hurricanes, not the eye. Crosses and bones at the bottom of the sea are people we call foreigners. When the gifted enter the sea, they find their own ready to teach them. You refuse your identity as water. Teachers, rise. Claim your streets as oceans. Wash your cities in fire. Minds, stop menstruating. The sky won't release her tides. We wake up inside the same day. The long death past a noose. The morning godlight is just a show with a sponsor. Who is paying for the sun to show up every day? If that nigga works for free, then fuck him because I can't. Who will feed the babies and the corpses that tend to them? Like a man, the sun shows up, demands applause, and leaves everyone else to deal with the night. We stopped touching dirt. They started touching me. They say, let go of your story, but first you have to know it is there in the blood and in the body, in the food and in the sea, in the goddess that is fighting a war in all of me, in the twisted asana, in the depths of shame, in the wailing birds that give songs their names, in the knotted hairs, in the wild untamed, in the peace beyond pleasure at the water's edge. Take me to the water, clothe me in the day, wrap the sky around me, bake my soul in clay. Tell me what they call you, the songs in your name, the colors of your wings before they flew unchained.
Lebo Mashile. What rivers we get to drink from tonight. What beautiful rivers. Siyabonga. Our next and final poet for the night is our featured poet at the festival, Siphokazi Jonas, who is a poet, playwright, performer, and producer. She holds an MA in English literature as well as an undergraduate degree in drama and English. As writer and performer, Siphokazi has produced 4 one-woman poetry shows in Cape Town and Johannesburg. Her most recent stage production, #WeAreDyingHere, was performed at Arscape Theatre and Joburg Theatre to positive reception, as well as last night at Poetry Africa. The production was adapted into a short film and has screened at numerous international film festivals, including Female Filmmakers Festival in Berlin, where it picked up 2 awards this week. She made history in 2016 as the first African poet ever to perform at Rhetoric in Los Angeles, California. In 2016, she was the runner-up for the Solplaatje European Union Award. Siphokazi is a storyteller, and ordinary lives fuel her work in poetry and the theater, engaging questions of faith, identity, gender-based violence, cultural and linguistic alienation, Black women in rural spaces, and the politics of everyday lives. Please welcome to the stage, Siphokazi Jonas.
Sorry for being late, ne? I tried to send a WhatsApp, but airtime was finished. You know that today it took me 3 hours to get a bus? because these taxi drivers are still shooting each other. And the lines in the taxi rank were longer than 1994. God, I don't have time. You know, sometimes educated people make the biggest messes and then pat themselves on the back for creating work. Whew. The things I've seen behind electric fences in the suburbs. Our townships are a blooming field of plastic bottles, rusted tin cans, and broken glass. Shopping bags are flowers, and pamphlets with specials decorating the fences. Every day is spring in these colors, where trees are street lights. They call us dirty, but there's no city dustbin in sight. And tourists are tired of game parks, so now they are on safari in the slums. This is how they see the real Africa, the natural habitat of the native. Mud dwellings, human-sized tin cans, plastic, cardboard and paper and plastic to keep the rain and other things out. To build is to recycle. Apartheid took our labor without thanks and then dumped us on the outskirts. Now, democracy is keeping the gates shut with high rent and bylaws. Taxis, buses, and trains, they dump us out, at the end of a workday, they dump us on the outskirts where we cannot obscure the view, where we cannot be seen, and where we cannot decrease the value of the suburbs. But history is not history to us, because tomorrow is an expectation of being the same as today. But you know, pretend. They're going to pretend. So they pretend dumps its plastic in Malaysia and makes an island of waste elsewhere, paying for its citizens not to see it. It eases their conscience to call it another man's treasure. Countries who do not ask themselves why they eat more than they can stomach, constipating our rivers and seas with their appetite as if we don't share the kitchen. Those are my daughter's words. I don't know anything about what countries do, only about how our government lets these things happen as long as they get their crumbs from under the table. My daughter has eyes to see the world in all its bigness. My vision stretches from home to work and back. Kaloku, I love school during lunch break. It makes my vision short, my sight short-sighted. But when my daughter tells me about how these countries treat Africa, it reminds me of my old madam. She would judge me for owing umatshonisa loan shark money every month. He will take your ID and your card until you pay. Madam would say, she'd never think to pay me enough money so I don't need a loan shark. No low pay, no day, madam. Simple maths. But every time she would judge me and she'd be lecturing me, I'd be thinking, but madam, you and I are the same. Day is my loan shark. The bank is your loan shark. Kuba, it collects money for the house, the cars, the school fees, and more than any one family could ever need. At least the day is 6 months. When are your bank you owe for 30 years, madam? 30 years. Dembi, don't waste your money on drinking and getting drunk on mkomboti. My name is not Tembi, madam.
or whatever your arrogance decides is convenient for your tongue. My name is Noma Themba. My name is a three-legged pot cast in iron. It bears the heat of history. It carries the hopes of my parents and my grandparents and my village. My name is full of the thick soup of my heritage. My name is always cooking. It boils and then it simmers with aspiration. My name is an heirloom, so hold it carefully when you speak, madam. My daughter says that I should tell this woman and not let her rename me as if our names don't have meaning. But I don't say anything. I keep quiet because keeping quiet is how we keep our jobs. Even when the money is not the same every month because you broke a plate by accident, even when you get hurt at work or you are fired for no reason. My husband says that I'm spoiling our daughter by letting her be free with her mind and her thought and her words. He's not as impressed as I am by the things she learns at college. You know, my daughter, she balances the books on the table between a two-plate stove and a bucket of drinking water and the rhythm of my blade undoing a cabbage at dinner. On the news, there is news of another mayor, another minister, another leader who's cooking the books. My husband is hunting among the bulletins for news of when he can fetch his accident money from the bosses who mined the gold out of his lungs and left silicosis. He asks why our daughter is not like other girls. Why is she always tending to the books and not to the dishes? And I wonder why he doesn't ask our son, who drinks his own children's grand money away long after the day has staggered into night. This flame flickering from day to day, waiting to be extinguished. I tell him, she's going to be an accountant. One who counts money to make money. She's going to anoint our heads with its grease. Oh, that girl. I work hard so that she can have enough money for a train ticket and to photocopy things and get those textbooks, even the ones without a cover. They are full of underlining and notes and highlighters. They are full of other people's thoughts, and I want her to add her own. I wish I could give her more, but I must send money to my mother in the Eastern Cape because all our siblings dump their children with her. Nkosi yami. So many years of trying to extend that forum house. Black women never retire. We work until we die. But I'm my mother's hope, and my daughter is mine. One day she's going to change those walls of zinc into brick. My only fear is that she'll get her degree and job, only to end up here with me.
And with that, I'm going to refrain from commenting. It says enough for itself. Don't forget to continue drinking from these rivers of wisdom, of knowledge, of truth. They are all around us. They are all around us. May we continue to drink as we find our breath with one another. Thank you for sharing your breath and your waters with us. Siyabonga. Thank you to the Poetry Africa organizers. Thank you to the Hear My Voice team. Thank you to the funders and partners. Thank you to the technical teams that have kept us unmuted. Thank you to the Playhouse Company. Thank you to the hosts and moderators. And thank you to the poets who have contributed to this night and all the other nights. And there's one more night coming. Don't forget, nakusasa kusazoba mnandi khona nemfula nakusasa. So niya nakhona. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a wonderful evening. Bless you. Okuhle kodwa. Noma Khwezi.